They say truth is stranger than fiction. But what happens when the truth is so explosive, so controversial, that it costs someone their life? On a crisp Wednesday evening in Orem, Utah, 31-year-old Charlie Kirk, the outspoken right-wing activist and co-founder of Turning Point USA, took to the stage at Utah Valley University. It was supposed to be another fiery open-air event. A rally, a speech, a night where he did what he always did, challenge elites, stir up debate, and connect with his audience. But before we continue, please subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell for more updates. But within minutes, tragedy struck. A 22-year-old named Tyler Robinson stepped forward and fired the shots that ended Kirk's life instantly. The crowd gasped. Some screamed. Others ducked. Security scrambled, but it was too late. And just like that, one of the loudest voices in America's conservative movement was silenced forever. Or was he silenced because of something he knew? Weeks later, the unthinkable happened. Pope Leo XIV, yes, the very leader of the Catholic Church, stepped onto the world stage and dropped a bombshell that left journalists, politicians, and ordinary people reeling. Charlie Kirk died protecting a secret. According to the Pope, Kirk had uncovered classified information about global elites. Information so damning, so sensitive, that it put a target on his back. But what exactly did he know? And more importantly, why would the Pope himself speak out about it? This is the story of Charlie Kirk's shocking death, the mystery that surrounds it, and the global implications that may just rewrite everything we thought we knew about power, corruption, and the dangerous price of truth. The man who spoke too loudly. Charlie Kirk wasn't just a political commentator, he was a phenomenon. Love him or hate him, you couldn't ignore him. At just 18, he co-founded Turning Point USA, an organization designed to rally young conservatives and fight what he saw as left-wing dominance in America's schools and universities. By his 20s, he was everywhere. College campuses, news panels, podcasts, Twitter feuds, and even the White House lawn. His style? Direct, sometimes brash, always unapologetic. He didn't just debate opponents, he dismantled them. He wasn't afraid to call out the mainstream media, celebrities, politicians, or even his fellow conservatives if he thought they were going soft. But behind that fiery personality was something else. Curiosity. Sources close to Kirk say he wasn't just a loud voice. He was a relentless researcher. He wanted to know what was really happening behind the curtain of politics. And apparently he found out. The event that changed everything. September 2025. Utah Valley University. It was billed as another Turning Point USA rally. Thousands of students gathered, waving flags, snapping selfies, and waiting to hear Kirk's latest firebrand speech. But something was different that night. Witnesses later told investigators that Kirk seemed tense, distracted. He was constantly checking his phone, scanning the crowd, and whispering to his team. Some say he looked like a man carrying a burden. When he finally took the microphone, his first words weren't his usual rah-rah political lines. Instead, he began with something cryptic. There are truths in this world that are buried so deep, those who uncover them may never live to tell the story. Tonight, I'm going to take that risk. Chills ran through the audience. What did he mean? He never got the chance to explain. Minutes later, Tyler Robinson opened fire. The shooter and the silence. Who was Tyler Robinson? A 22-year-old with no prior criminal record. No history of violence. A quiet kid from Provo who, according to neighbors, kept to himself. So why would he suddenly kill Charlie Kirk in cold blood? The official story painted Robinson as a radicalized lone wolf. But skeptics weren't buying it. Too clean. Too simple. Too convenient. Even stranger, just hours after his arrest, Robinson stopped speaking altogether. Police said he refused to cooperate. He didn't ask for a lawyer. He didn't ask for family. He simply sat in his cell silent. And then, he disappeared. Yes, disappeared. One day, guards went to check his cell. It was empty. No explanation. No transfer papers. No trace. Just gone. What happened to him? And why, of all people, would the Pope step forward and suggest Kirk died protecting a secret? The Pope's bombshell. When Pope Leo XIV addressed the Vatican press room weeks after Kirk's death, no one expected fireworks. The Vatican usually comments on spiritual matters, not American politics. But that day, cameras rolled, journalists leaned in, and the world got hit with a curveball. Charlie Kirk did not die in vain, Pope Leo declared. He died because he uncovered truths that powerful forces wanted hidden. He was protecting that truth until his final breath. Gasps echoed across the room. The Vatican spokesperson tried to walk back the statement, calling it metaphorical. But by then it was too late. The words were out, and people began asking the obvious. What did Charlie Kirk know? The secret files. Here's where the story gets even stranger. According to leaked reports, Kirk had been digging into a set of documents, classified intelligence linking global elites, financial institutions, and political leaders in what some call a shadow network. We're talking offshore accounts, election manipulation, and possibly even ties to international trafficking operations. The kind of information that, if exposed, could bring down governments. And Kirk wasn't just reading about it. He was preparing to go public. Chapter 6. The Last Phone Call. The night before his death, Kirk made a call to a close confidant. According to that source, his voice was shaky, almost fearful. "If something happens to me tomorrow," he allegedly said, "tell the world I didn't do this to myself. I found something, and they'll come for me." Chills. That same night, his emails showed frantic drafts, messages he never got to send, attachments he never got to upload. The digital trail stops cold. Why? Because someone else got to it first. Chapter 7. A Pope's Motives. But here's the million-dollar question. Why would Pope Leo XIV, the leader of the Catholic Church, involve himself in this at all? Some argue he was simply honoring a fallen man. Others suggest he knew more than he let on. The Vatican has historically had access to intelligence channels that rival even governments. Documents locked in the Vatican archives span centuries of political and global secrets. Could it be that Pope Leo knew exactly what Kirk had uncovered? Because the Church already had the same files? Chapter 8. The Elite Connection. Every time a public figure dies under mysterious circumstances, people whisper the same phrase, "The elites did it." But in this case, the whispers are deafening. Kirk had already called out billionaires, Hollywood moguls, and tech giants in his speeches. He wasn't afraid to say names. Was he about to name names again? Only this time, names too powerful to be spoken aloud? Chapter 9. The Aftermath. After Kirk's death, something curious happened. Turning Point USA scrubbed certain pages from their website. Videos disappeared. Tweets vanished. Was it grief? Damage control? Or something darker? An effort to bury what he knew? And then there was the silence from Washington. Politicians who once praised him said nothing. Why? Because maybe, just maybe, they didn't want their names dragged into this mess either. Chapter 10. The Unfinished Story. Here's the truth. We may never know exactly what Charlie Kirk discovered, but the pieces add up to a picture that's impossible to ignore. A fiery activist, a mysterious shooter, a vanished prisoner, Pope's warning, and a world left with more questions than answers. Conclusion. What if you were him? Imagine you discovered something so powerful it could change the world, but telling it might cost your life. Would you speak out or stay silent? Charlie Kirk chose to speak, and whether you agree with his politics or not, his death forces us to confront a chilling reality. Truth still has a price, and sometimes that price is everything. Call to action. Now it's your turn. Do you believe Charlie Kirk died protecting a secret? Or was it just another tragic, senseless act of violence? Drop your thoughts below. Share this article. Start the conversation. Because if Kirk really was silenced, the only way to honor him is to make sure his story is never silenced again. Conversational, charismatic exposé tone. No fluff, a smooth build-up with retention tactics. Mini cliffhanger at the end to transition into the next section. Here we go. And on one unforgettable Wednesday evening in Orem, Utah, a man many thought untouchable paid that price. Charlie Kirk, a name that stirs reactions no matter who you are. For some, he was a hero, a fearless fighter for conservative values, an unapologetic truth-teller in a world of political correctness. For others, he was a troublemaker, a provocateur, someone who thrived on chaos. But whether you admired him or despised him, one thing was undeniable. You knew his name and you knew his voice. That night, Charlie Kirk stood before an eager crowd at Utah Valley University. Thousands of students, supporters, and critics alike had gathered. The energy in the air was palpable, buzzing with the kind of anticipation that follows a man who always seemed to say the thing no one else dared to. But there was something different about Kirk that night. Observers would later recall that he seemed restless. His usual confident grin was replaced with something else. A tightness in his expression, an intensity that suggested he wasn't just there to rally the crowd. He was carrying something heavy. And then, before anyone could fully grasp what was happening, it was all over. A young man named Tyler Robinson stepped forward. Shots rang out. Screams filled the air. Within seconds, Charlie Kirk was gone. The world mourned. His supporters demanded answers. His enemies, well, some remained silent, others whispered. But weeks later, a voice emerged that no one expected to hear. Pope Leo XIV, the head of the Catholic Church, a man who rarely ventures into the messy arena of partisan politics, stood before the press and declared, Charlie Kirk did not die in vain. He died because he uncovered truths that powerful forces wanted hidden. He was protecting that truth until his final breath. Let that sink in. The Pope, the leader of over 1 billion Catholics worldwide, a figure who normally speaks in the language of prayer, peace, and faith, had just insinuated that Charlie Kirk had been murdered for uncovering something explosive. The room gasped, the cameras clicked, headlines screamed, and suddenly, this wasn't just a tragic story of a political activist's death. It was something far darker, far more sinister. What truth could possibly be so devastating that it cost Charlie Kirk his life? And why, of all people, would the Pope risk his reputation to say it out loud? A familiar pattern? History has a way of repeating itself, doesn't it? Every time someone powerful gets close to a secret, strange things happen. Think of John F. Kennedy and his cryptic warnings about secret societies. Think of investigative journalists who stumbled upon stories about organized crime or government cover-ups. Many of them silenced before their work saw daylight. And now, Charlie Kirk's name was being added to that chilling